Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our special called budget work session for Tuesday, August 22nd. Thank you all for being here. Our first item on the agenda is B1, which is to discuss the proposed fiscal year 2023-24 budget.
Excellent. So Mayor and Council, at this point, our Director of Finance, Tammy Zimmerman, is looking for questions from you all and hopefully points of clarification as we prepare to review the budget. So just looking for any questions you all have had with the budget. If not, we can move immediately to the town hall preparations and what we plan to discuss at that moment and the preparations that have been done. But here we are. So if you have any questions, she is excited and ready to answer those questions.
So before we do that, let me just point of clarification. Councilman Merritt's not with us. He may be trying to connect remotely, but if he does, we will be advised of that. So, you ready to start? No? Okay. Councilman Baird, do you have any questions regarding budget?
Not yet.
Councilwoman Bennett?
No, I know where it is, so.
Getting off easy today.
Councilman Roman?
Yes.
Tammy, if you want, this is a workshop. Why don't you come join us at the table? That way you're not having to. I'm going to go and bring her to the table to make it a little bit easier.
Thank you. Okay. What do you have?
Alrighty, so will you talk a little bit about, there's like that $5 for post-closure and pre-closure expenses, and then it's like $2.50 for people who receive once a week trash pickup.
And the seniors?
So what would be the cost if somebody were to go from once a week to twice a week?
What would be the cost? That would be more of a Shane
Okay.
question as far as the cost. I believe in talking with Shane, our Director of Sustainability, he mentioned that once a week pickup isn't exactly half of the twice a day pickup because you have some sunk costs that go along with that. So what those total costs are, it would be baked into his sustainability budget.
And we had that discussion several years ago. And let me just ask for clarification. You talking about on the west side?
Yep.
Okay. The whole west side or specific individuals?
The whole west side.
Okay. Because it would have to be the whole west side if we were going to do something like that. When somebody else previously brought up reducing our twice-a-week garbage service for the central part of the city, I believe, Shane, there wasn't a whole lot of difference. Certainly the amount of aggravation that was created by that wasn't worth the less than $100,000 difference. But in terms of adding and expanding service, that's a different story. So I think we would need to get that quote from Shane.
Well, the contract for CWD is up for April 2024, so that would be the most preferred time to have those discussions. It would increase the cost, which that would be up for council to decide to pay it or not and go that direction, but that would be up in April of 2024. So you'll actually see those discussions starting much sooner because we want to have that contract negotiated and executed as soon as possible.
And here's where I was going with that. I think if we're going to be providing less services for a specific area, I don't think that $2.50 is appropriate. I think from the west side and the people that I've spoken to, there are a lot of different fees already assessed to people who live over there. We've got 2 different HOAs. We've got PID, we've got Valwood on top of the normal taxes and fees that everyone else in the city is subject to. And to add another fee, albeit $2.50 per month, is not palatable. I think it's going to become an issue of not the amount, but of the principle of the matter. And so what I would propose is that those who are on the west side and receive once a week trash pickup, that there be no surcharge.
Everybody on the west side receives once a week.
They do.
Okay, that was,
So my proposal is, okay, well, if we're gonna have a fee, then let's do twice a week pickup like we do everybody else.
so I'll take issue with one thing that you said. If we were going to provide less service, we're not providing less service. When those neighborhoods were put in, the standard on the west side was once a week pickup. So for us to do something less than once a week would be less service. But they're receiving service delivery that was made known from the very get-go, is to my knowledge.
Yes, that was baked into the initial agreements that came with the west side because there wasn't really residential over there, single-family residential. And so that was baked into the service delivery. Everyone has a cart. Everyone has once-a-week trash delivery. Larger, and that service level of frequency is very common with many surrounding cities. For example, in Carrollton, I know exactly for sure at this point in time, but we all have trash bins, one for recycling, one for trash, the big ones. And I have a family of 5, and we almost never fill it up. And that's our trash service, and you can pay for it. The escalated service would be you can then buy another bin if you would want it, but they don't change the frequency of the service. That's just an example of it. And then the cost differential, as Tammy said, was it's not a 50% difference in service level versus, so twice a week doesn't cost twice as much. It costs incrementally less than that, but that was the proposed discount on the fee structure was to reduce it by 50% for anybody that's getting it twice a week, where eventually these will all merge together when there's no offset available from revenues from the landfill. So eventually the fees will merge into one fee, and that'll be a tough conversation about 22 years from now about how they want to handle that component of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but my position is the same, that, you know, if it's just that I don't think that there should be a fee for them, just given the number of fees that are already paid by the residents out there. Again, it's $2.50 is a very nominal cost, but I think it's going to become a matter of principle. And the one thing I hear constantly is we pay so much money for our homes, we pay so much money for the HOA, for taxes, PID, and all these other assessments. And so hearing these concerns and seeing another fee assessed to this community gives me pause. And so it's not something that I think I can support. So I guess I just kind of wanted to see where everyone else is. I don't think this is something that is going to make me, vote against the budget necessarily, but I do want to have that discussion and understand where other council members are in terms of that. And, if it's the will of council to support those residents in that endeavor, then I'd appreciate that. And if not, then, that's okay too. We all have differing opinions and views on things.
And I just want to give clarification to council where we're at with it. The proposed fee would come to council by ordinance. It's going to come up at an upcoming council meeting. The fee structure is designed to start at $5 for twice a week service, $2.50 for any seniors that have a homestead senior exemption, or anybody receiving once a week trash service. Those fees will gradually escalate to where they cover the landfill's post-closure costs. So basically, we're using the landfill to subsidize the cost of trash delivery service, acknowledging that in the future, we will not have there won't be a revenue source to cover it. So we're trying to get to a point to where the fees will actually offset the cost of service delivery many years when most of us will most likely not be in the same positions we're in today. And Also, what we're proposing is the fee wouldn't be implemented until October 1, so October 1 of 2024, to give time for more communication with the residents. But that way, we've had those conversations. We can put more of a business case in there, so you wouldn't see anything in this budget. There wouldn't be a fee starting in this fiscal year that's upcoming. It would be designed to be implemented in a future fiscal year, so we can have better discussion, because it is something different. It is something new to provide more time, but also to create a pathway for council to already have the fee there that eases us into it, basically putting a toe in the water, while also trying to acknowledge there is a difference in service level and to also respect our seniors as well. So that's the current structure that's going to be proposed to council that Shane's working on for the ordinance that will come establishing the fee. So it wouldn't be in this budget year, it's preparing it for a future year so we can get the pro forma in line and make sure we have that revenue locked in to help us ensure we can close the landfill according to that standards in front of us.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, this is a discussion that we're going to be having at a later time again.
No, we're still planning on bringing the proposed fee forward to council to consider. It just wouldn't go, it would have a zero fee this next fiscal year. It's basically delaying it a year, so we have more time to discuss it with the residents. A future council can always still adjust it because it hasn't been implemented at that time, but we've had a lot of time and energy put into this. What we didn't want to do is lose those discussion points today and saying, hey, we recognize that we do have the ticking time bomb of the landfill closing in the future. We do have money we're setting aside for it. But as we enter a future where there's less and less resources to go around, is there a way to basically stop having 100% offset of that service delivery and ease into the future, which 22, 23 years from now it'll be a pass-through cost just like it is in every other city. And the residents would be paying for their own trash service, but the city would negotiate the contracts on behalf of the residents.
But along those lines, it may be that a future council sits here and based on whatever those fees are, when we have to start paying for residential trash service, council may decide the whole city's going to once a week. It's very possible. So we know that trash service is never going to get cheaper.
No, the landfills and spaces are filling up, and part of the twice a week, and so this is one of the differences in the two service delivery models, is not all of Farmers Branch outside of the west side has a trash bin. So when you have trash bags and they're just sitting in your garage, and I've had kids in diapers, you have animals, there's things in those trash bags you don't want sitting on your concrete floor. You definitely don't want them to get a leak. If you have a converted garage, it's a whole different issue. So the twice a week model fits because trash bins aren't mandatory for the central area of the city or the east side. On the west side with the carts, it fits better. The houses are designed to a more modern standard, which has the larger garages. It has those spaces where bins are a challenge in the central corridor because you have the older housing stock. A lot of the garages have been converted. So a trash bin may not be as palatable because you don't have a place to put it. And at the same time with trash bags, it's another challenge. But on the west side, you have the more modern designed homes. Some of them even have pathways for the trash cans to follow. Makes it a little bit easier. Again, just considerations and just kind of try to show the staff perspective on how we're at this point today.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like it sounds like the people on the west side getting once a week trash pickup because it's more efficient to do it there seems a bit punitive.
I mean, in that case, when the contract comes back, the council could ask CWD to increase the service level and then go to the twice a week service. But the current model of feeing would then double that fee structure as well. So instead of being at $2.50, it would go to $5 to offset those costs. And it'd probably still be a negative in the short run. In the long run, it would catch up. If that makes sense as well, because the model's built just purely on service delivery.
And, you know, and in my head, I thought, well, it probably costs a lot more to do twice a week pickup and so that's why I was like, well, probably the easiest thing is just to not assess a fee for those individuals. And I'm being careful because there is something that, the budget video that we all recorded, my piece says, and it doesn't have a date that says it's going to start at a different date. It says, the city council is also considering a new fee for the special revenue fund specifically for landfill closure and post-closure. And then it goes on to describe what it is and the amount and who will be assessed what amount based off of what criteria. But this is a communication that's going to go out now as we're talking about this budget. While I understand that the fee won't be assessed until October 1st of 2024, the discussions are going to start happening now in the neighborhoods.
Correct.
And I just want to get ahead of it because I just, I hear the complaints that I've heard, and as a council member, it's my duty to bring forth these concerns that I'm hearing, and I just can't be in support of an additional fee.
Okay.
That's it. And I have other things, but I'll leave that for now.
Shane, you've magically appeared. Thank you.
Just, if the council is serious about changing the service frequency on the west side to twice a week in carts, I need to know, right now it's a $4 delta from once a week to twice a week for carts. So I did not put that in the budget for next year, that's why I'm saying that. So if this is something y'all are serious about, I need to revise my estimate to you for garbage collection for next year.
In that case, Shane, I would recommend that if that's a change we're making, I would make it change with the fiscal year so we can absorb it because this contract's for April and that's mid-year already for us, but
Yeah,
we
make a
could,
projection for that contract end of what it's gonna look like for the next
correct.
6 months.
Because that way you're not what ifing on the budget.
Right.
So that's the $4 is the delta, which Shane was able to.
Yeah, for twice a week in carts versus once a week in carts. There's a slight decrease for twice a week in bags. Okay, more than what y'all probably know. Their thought is, if it's bags twice a week, my guy's only gonna make the trip to the curb once. So the cart, he has to go get the cart, go to the truck, take the cart back. So from the time perspective, that's what they're looking at. So it's a little cheaper for bags, 'cause I think one person can grab all the bags if you have twice a week service.
And Shane, what's the base fee for the service level?
It is, so for this next fiscal year, for $868 for, this is for garbage. Once a week in carts is $868. Twice a week in carts is $11.59. Twice per week with bags is $9.64. And recycling is the same for everybody at $4.19. $868, $11.59, $9.64, and the recycling is $4.19.
And could you break out what those specific amounts are for again? The
Sure.
eight-
Yeah, first number, the first one is for once a week service in carts, the 868. For twice a week in carts, it's 1159. Twice per week in bags only, 964.
And Shane, can you clarify, what is is it $868
No, that's a charge per household per month.
per, okay, $8.68.
So those that have that service level, that would be the charge we pay CWD for that service on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And that's purely for the trash service, so we also have different costs associated with the green grabber,
Right.
brush, bulk that compound to these numbers as well. And Shane, just to clarify, you are anticipating these fees will go up with the new contract?
Yes, right now it's been a 1.5 to 2% escalator every year. We did a 5-year set fee contract.
Okay.
Last time we did this, so that's kind of what they've priced in. So we have our initial discussion this Thursday.
Okay. You good on that topic?
I am.
Okay. The budget's a big animal, so you got anything else?
Yes.
Okay.
So the next item I have is regarding the media specialist position. And so I guess I just wanted to, get a sense of where everybody else is at, just because looking at it, I mean, I see that there's going to be some work available for this individual. I'm not really too sure what the value add is going to be, given that we have other marketing positions. I feel like there's a bit of an overlap, so obviously the way I think through things is very different from others, so I kind of wanted to explore that and just express my concern that, we've got in the communications team, we've got Jeff Brady, we've got a contractor, we've got another person in his office as well doing communications, then we've got Wendy and Rutherford who are doing communications for fire and police, then we've got who knows what other marketing individuals we might have within the city. So that are responsible for communications. I think there was at one time Rachel Johnson and then Olivia Rodriguez. So I just have a hard time saying, yes, move forward with a media specialist position in lieu of an officer position, and knowing that there's some overlap in responsibilities. I get that the role is going to be very specialized and specific to being a public information officer. I just have a really hard time adding another head to the count.
Comment?
It's going to be shared. My understanding that position is it's shared between the police and the fire, correct?
That's correct.
How will that work out? I mean, walk me through a day, I guess is what I need to know. Walk me through a day of what that would look like for that individual splitting their time.
So a couple different balancing components on there is, for example, we do have I forget the title, but Steve's title, as it would be, he's out there and having those interactions, those relationships with the organizations. This person's focused on the branding of public safety, so both fire and police, telling the story, also helping with crisis communications. Because we had an example the other day, Steve was at training and we need to post something, and apparently Facebook's a foreign language to some of my folks over there. So we weren't having that ability to communicate as quickly as we needed to. We also look at the history of posting on social media, especially from the police department. It lags dramatically. It's there when we need to have something, like today, y'all got an email earlier from me, right? Something bad is happening in Farmers Branch. There's a shooting. Want you all to see it quickly because the media was inquiring as well. But at the same time, we have to push out information that's not just bad news, and it's working on the brand of both the police and the fire department. The fire department's doing very well with some of their goodwill stories. They had one the other day that had reaches all over the place about a good thing they were doing in the community. And so it's that person that creates those opportunities. So it's a complement to the current role that's there. And also it allows that current role to focus on what that role is designed to do, which is those relationship building. We talked about changes in areas, the challenges we're having in different areas with businesses and impacts from homelessness issues, having those people available to help further implement solutions, whereas this other person is out there creating the brand and story for it. Southlake does a great job of branding public safety as it would be. They go and tell stories, they get creative moments with the community. And so where you have your outreach person having those moments, having those conversations, being there with coffee with the cop, this person is there documenting and helping frame those stories in a good way as well. The big difference also is this person is not a uniformed position, it's a civilian position. So the officers can do what the officers are trained to do. The PIO can do what the PIO is trained to do. And so there's a little bit difference in that structure of it.
So then how is it different than Jeff and his team?
One's gonna, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd be
Okay,
happy
okay.
to step in. I don't mean to.
No, you're
my bounds, But, and again, probably, the two chiefs would probably be the best people to talk to about it. But my understanding, what this pinpoints is the evolution of social media. Because as we all know, when it first came on the scene, it was an add-on. You've got other duties, but can you also populate our Facebook page? Put a couple of posts up there, make sure people know we're here, know what we're doing. Well, fast forward to today, it's a completely different animal. It should be a primary channel. And in some cases, some of our neighboring cities have used it very well to become the primary go-to source when there is something happening in Farmers Branch. We had an incident today. And so where we want to get is to, I think, morph and adapt those social media channels for Farmers Branch to where people are trained to go to them first as a primary and trustworthy resource. And on top of that, as Ben mentioned, it also has to be a dialogue. It can't just be, pushing out information one way, because people get tired of that real quick. So it has to be also, pushing out information and also responding to questions that citizens have. Why is this lane blocked? I heard this on some other channel. Is it legit? And I think what the two chiefs want is someone who's dedicated to social media, because it's so important, it's primary, and it can't be make a post here, then we'll get back to it tomorrow. It just can't. You come across as tone deaf and irrelevant at that point. So, and I work hand in glove with Wendy and Steve, but quite honestly, they have so many other duties. Steve is a trainer. He's in schools, he's working with our staff, he's working with civilians. the Civilian Police Academy, and on and on and on. And the same with Wendy. She has a lot of responsibilities in terms of educating, working with schools, fire safety, fire prevention. And so try as she might, she can't really devote that attention to social media. And it's multiple platforms. It's not just Facebook, it's several now.
Well, correct, but there are avenues to make one post that will, cover.
That's true.
Cover it all.
That's true.
And the other thing, I'm looking at, and so I hate to go into what are the credentials will be for this person, but even on the social media posts that I see, there's no hashtags, there's nothing, and that's a moment we lose in that.
Right. So we need to step up. And it needs to be a full-time primary responsibility, in my opinion. And so, it's, probably the more detailed, comprehensive explanation can come from the two chiefs because they see it, they see what they're trying to accomplish here, but that's my 2 cents worth. So I think they do a great job in terms of what they're able to get to, the two, Wendy and Steve Rutherford. It's become a full-time, it should be a full-time communication channel with the entire community. And it can't be, when people need to know immediately, it's no one's fault, but you can't wait half a day until you can get to it and then respond. That's not effective.
Jeff, I want to, I'll chime in since I own an advertising agency. Social media, if you're doing it right, it is a conversation with whether you call them fans, contacts, residents, whatever you want to call them, but the people that are engaged. And so I think you're absolutely right. It can't be one way. It can't be we post something one time and then the initiator of that is silent. The conversation builds if you're going to do it right. And I wasn't originally sold on this position myself, but then I sort of came to realize that after talking with some other folks and just thinking about it more myself, it's important to get information out. It's important for us to engage with our listeners. And we talk about engagement. We had this conversation before you all were on city council. How do we better engage with our residents? People are consuming media differently today. So we want to have that open door, if you will, which people are willing to give you enough room for a soundbite, because that's what you're getting, okay? And then anything more than that gets handled differently. But we need to control much of the narrative that's out there, and we also need to control our brand. Our brand is Farmers Branch, and so when stories happen, we just don't want somebody throwing something out. This person needs to be educated and know what the mission and the vision is of the city of Farmers Branch so they can try to protect that, even though we have something bad that has happened. And I'm having this meeting, the same meeting tomorrow with one of my clients who is probably the largest medical facility in the Southwest about protecting their brand. And I'm not the only advertising agency they use, but they want to make sure that there's consistency in messaging no matter who's placing ads for them. Okay. I think we need to do the same. We need to control the story that's out there, or because the news media, they're monitoring stories also. And if we can be more reactive when things happen, then that gives us the leg up, because we should always be first to report something before the news media, in my mind. And that takes a very, I think, a dedicated and focused individual that can not only do that, but then carry on whatever additional conversation needs to be had, because people are going to reply. They're going to say, oh, y'all are a bunch of idiots, whatever. Okay, well, no, the council's not a bunch of idiots, or the city's not a bunch of idiots, and here's why. So we need somebody that can do that. Hiring an outside independent entity to do that doesn't necessarily work for me. They're not invested here. They would be doing work for us versus the person who is doing this works with us.
Embedded.
It's embedded.
Someone who knows protocol, police protocol. That's tricky too. What you
So-
can say and what you cannot say.
Yeah, and I also realize some of our own in-house limitations. You're a reporter. You know that world, and you can do
Well,
things, but some things aren't in your wheelhouse. Just like me, there's a reason I don't do social media. Okay, because I don't have the time, so I contract that out for my clients when I have to do it.
and we do work together. Like, this is a perfect example today. There was an incident, which you probably all notified about. And so I was leading a MetroCrest Chamber luncheon. Allison was speaking there, so a lot of us were there to support her. And as I was leading that, I got a call from Steve Rutherford. And so he knew a little bit. And so I got the information from him, and then I wanted to contact our social media contractor, Olivia, who does a great job, and she can put it out on all 4 platforms in both languages at one time. But then we had to make sure we had it worded right and make sure Chief McCoy was on board, and he didn't have any updates or any changes. So by the time all that happened, it was a half an hour, at least 45 minutes later. And so if you had someone embedded who was there, in our emergency response teams, it would be quicker and more efficient, in my opinion.
And I think that's important because police chief knows or will have an extremely close relationship with that person and will trust them to handle that messaging. I think that they will already be versed in some of that.
I also want to make a clarification point. I pulled up Kevin's email on this one. So all of the PIO functions that are part of Steve's job description will transfer to the new media specialist, and he will become fully focused on crime prevention and community engagement. So it's more of also putting the resources in the right bucket for what we need. And that's that community outreach piece, especially as we've seen with certain emails we get maybe daily, right, on concerns that are out there. Crime prevention, especially with our business community as well. The station area is a huge focus for us. We have continuous concerns coming in that arena where we need somebody in there on the engagement side of it and on the prevention side of it, and that's not what a civilian can do. And so in Steve's position, he's a trained police officer. He's also very specialized in his training. I want to best utilize that training, and I'll be honest, his talents on a social media platform, yes, we can all post on Facebook in here, but I want to use those talents where they're most beneficial to the organization. So that's why you're seeing this request. Kevin had to really sell me on this one too before I felt comfortable putting it in my proposed budget to you all. He didn't just come and say, hey, Ben, I'm going to do this, and there you go. No, there was tons of conversation, explain this to me why, and I come from a communications background in emergency management. We do all the crisis communications training, you're taught all of it, but part of it with fire and police especially is the relational component of it. Steve can be successful in this role because he has that relationship with the first responders in the police department. So why is the civilian position not over here with Jeff? Because they need to be in close proximity to the departments they serve to have that relationship with those departments to be able to post this information. We've tried and tried. It's almost like the alignment we talked about with the marshals. Why is that under the finance? That's a great question. You wouldn't put a public safety communicator underneath my civilian communications person here at City Hall. So even though they're a civilian over there, it's a proven alignment that works. And the other part of this is Kevin has success with this in his previous organization. It's not him saying, I have an idea. I just sit around and thinking, man, I had this cup of coffee. Wouldn't it be great if we did this? Because this is something that was very impactful for a previous city and allowed him to find success in building the brand of the organization. So that's why you're seeing that as part of the requested budget. I can definitely make him available for more questions on this one as well. But I just want to make sure we're showing that relationship. It's not about taking away from another person. It's like, man, Steve's got an amazing skill set that I really need help with this area, but he gets pulled. And then the other part is when he's over here, then he's not over here. And the same thing for Wendy. Wendy's one of my inspectors. She also does community outreach and engagement as well. You see her at all the community events. But at the end of the day, she's getting pulled in multiple directions and we fall behind maybe on inspection. So trying to balance several pieces of the equation with this one. And so we tried to package it in a way that made sense, but that's kind of the pull. circle for that one.
I think it's an improved alignment for Steve's skill set. I think it's time that we have a dedicated social media person. As I've become more connected with the surrounding cities and their police and fire departments, I think we do a decent job of Facebook, but you can tell that it's part-time ad hoc compared to some of the output from other departments. So I'm supportive, but I have some pretty strong expectations.
I believe we all have very high expectations for any new positions that we're asking for taxpayers to fund. So the expectations are there for all of us. And I believe Kevin's current actions speak for himself and what he's done so far. He's proven himself in a short amount of time to where we go to a meeting today and the other cities are like, you stole him from us, and we're, he's proven himself and his ideas, everything, every day he's coming back with news. For like the last update had those radar signs that are coming in that y'all have talked about. He's on it. He's using the red light camera funds to purchase those because it aligns. But even better is they can help with those speed study questions we've been talking about. So creative solutions that get us where we need to be. And I believe we've already got 2 streets where those will go, and those will be where we've had questions from council members. But as soon as they come in, they're going. So, but Kevin understands the expectations as well. He also understands that if it's not successful, he's expected to manage it appropriately as well. So,
Right.
and all of my leadership team has those same expectations. We're responsible for our decisions.
Thank you.
Anything else on that topic? Okay, next.
I'm good.
Okay. Councilman Jackson.
All right. Tammy, I would like, yet again, another education on the non-departmental line item in the expenditures dealing with transfers.
Okay. So you
For a point
probably.
of reference, can you tell, so if everybody has the right page, can you reference the page number for the rest of the council so they can
Page
go?
24.
24, perfect. Sorry, I just want to make sure everybody's looking at the same page as you're taking us through the
There,
budget.
there's an amount on, at the top of the page, under general government, non-departmental. Last year's adopted budget was $7,339,800. We amended the budget to $17,354,749. We're proposing this year $2,747,900.
Oh, you're looking, okay. I was looking at the summaries. But
Sorry.
yes, same number,
Same number,
$14 million delta.
a $14.6 million
So let me explain
difference.
what that consists of. So last year, you might recall, we did a $1.6 million dividend check. We also advanced funded our CIP for about $5.3 million. We did change our retirement, thank you, our retirement age, or I'm sorry, years of service from 25 to 20 years. So that was a $3.4 million increase to our pension liability. We did at mid-year, 1.6 million transferred to the Revenue Stabilization Fund. We also did a $1.55 million event center loan. And we increased our fleet and fixed asset funding by $500,000. So about 14 million
Okay.
is your delta.
Yeah, very good. That was a really big difference, and I just wanted to make sure that I was accounting for all of it. And these are amounts that have transferred from these from the general fund to these individual budgets?
Correct. So you contain in the non-departmental a bunch of transfers.
Okay,
And it was specifying all those transfers that were made.
okay, all right, very good. Other question is regarding park maintenance, and this is on page 25, the expenditure for 2022, 2023 was 6.2 million, and we're proposing this year roughly a $2 million increase to that budget. And I'd just like some,
Maintenance.
that splash pad, all of it?
That would only be 200, and that'd be a non-bond CIP, so this is a different one.
Let's go and see.
We can get that for you, but we'll have to go check,
Okay. All right.
unless Tammy can pull it up real quick, which she has a miraculous talent for doing.
I'm trying.
25?
It's the park maintenance increase,
Right.
1.9.
Let's see. We did increase contract labor. There was a request to add headcount for a maintenance crew. Instead, we increased contract labor in dealing with maintenance for parks.
So instead of hiring additional people, we're outsourcing certain maintenance duties, right?
Correct.
That was part of it. We didn't want to just add headcount, especially when we knew we were having a discussion coming back to you all with maybe some properties that we shouldn't maintain.
Right.
And that was tough because we already had other positions being asked for in the budget, and so we wanted to try and be responsible where we could. And so we're using contracted labor, and if it's a better business decision to bring in employees next year, we'll bring that forward. But at this time, we felt it was best to see where we landed with the new balance and the new normal. Lots of changes, so trying to keep us consistent, not just jump in.
I'm going to say the majority of it is going to be the matching grant of $750,000. And that was approved by council to go, I believe, to Hoya.
Yes.
And then we have some advance funding of CIP, the normal stuff of park maintenance, master plan, the park field light replacement. That's all in your CIP, so those are some
Okay?
transfers.
And then just wanted to make sense in following the numbers, the donations fund, we're proposing a $1.3 million, $3 million variance. It's page 29, sorry. If I remember correctly, we received a large donation.
We did. We received the revenue, and the expense is building the solarium
Okay,
and everything else in the will request.
right. Okay. Okay. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Tammy.
I understand Councilman Merritt is having some issues, but he is either watching or listening. So I would say, Councilman, if you have any questions, feel free to message Ben, and we'll inject those as we receive them. I have a couple questions.
Okay?
So I'm going to go to page 19. Under licenses and permits, multifamily inspection. We're showing this is a revenue item, a $20,000 forecast of $20,000 less. And I'm just curious, because with more apartments, more multifamily units coming on in the city, why would we forecast less? Because they all have to be inspected.
Some of that is the timing of those apartments,
Okay.
and those are budgeted by that particular department and knowing what's coming through. We have seen a decrease in this revenue source with the increasing of mortgage rates.
I think what we're trying to differentiate between is the code enforcement inspection and the
Oh, that's
building,
true.
the permit and plan
That's true.
review and inspection. So when a large apartment complex comes online or not can cause dramatic swings in the revenue sources. Code enforcement is relatively stable as they go through, and you'll see that more in the fees component of it. But what we're trying to do is forecast when those large apartment complexes are coming online. A lot of it's pass through because they're extensive, sometimes $50,000, $60,000, sometimes $100,000. But without apartments coming through, they may be approved, but sometimes they wait to move forward. So they're trying to guess when they're going to apply for their permits,
Okay.
plan reviews, so.
Got it, okay. Now, if we go up to the top for sales and use taxes,
The $3 million decrease.
yep,
So when we established the Revenue Stabilization Fund, we did the Budget 101. We said we're going to cap it at the 23 million and push any extra over into Revenue
Into the
Stabilization
fund.
Fund.
Okay, that's what I
So that's
thought.
that 23 cap right there.
And that aligns with 2021, 2022's actual, much closer.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's our
just wanted to make sure about that.
mean that we established.
Okay.
And also, this was a recapture year for clawing back, is that correct? We had an influx in capturing sales tax that was past due for up to 4 years. So we want to make sure that we're acknowledging that this isn't our necessarily a normal year for sales tax. We
Right.
were getting some revenues that should have come in past years. And so we can't count on those in future years because they've already been
We
recaptured.
think 23 million is normal.
That would be a great place to be. So,
Right.
Yes.
Understood.
'cause that's still pushing the envelope from where we were just a couple of years ago.
Okay, one more on that page, and that was court, under fines, forfeits, assessments. We're showing a decrease of $153,000. I know that police have been busy working to slow traffic down in the city. Consequently, more tickets have been issued. We're seeing very steep level of increase in that regard. So are we
So
applying sort of the same methodology there?
to put that in perspective, if you looked back at 2022's actuals, we only came in at $1,870,000. So we fell short. And so in redoing our projections, we're going to fall a little bit short from the 1.2 in this year as well. So it's just kind of bringing that down a little bit of a level.
Okay, so,
We are increased from where we were. We are just not
okay.
there at the max.
So just for everybody's benefit, police are not slowing traffic down and writing tickets as a revenue source for the city.
Correct.
I want to make sure that
Correct.
everybody understands that. This is a safety issue for those watching
It's to the
or who
discretion
may
of the
watch.
police officer. There is no direction in any of that.
That is right. So, however, if folks don't slow down, we may see an increase in that number, which will lessen that delta.
Correct.
Okay.
Mayor, can I ask one more question while
You
we're on
may.
that page? If we go up just a little bit to the building use fees under charge for services, there's a $400,000 increase. Is that the barn or, sorry, venue, VR 549 or what we name it? 1842?
It looks like a barn.
Yes, let me see what that is.
Look like any barn I grew up around.
I said a barn, not your barn.
She's pulling it up now. Similar to our budget one-on-one, she can dissect into the line
Sure,
items and help us
yeah,
find those
no.
deltas.
That's fine.
Mike, do you know what you programmed in there for revenue on that off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, for the
Event center?
That menu.
Venue 18?
It's right around 200,000, I think, and that's a low estimate for
Okay.
the estimate on red.
That would be a chunk of it.
Okay, so that'd be a chunk of it, yeah, but that's where that would fit, is in that,
215, somewhere in that range is what was.
that's not net of expenses, that's gross
That's gross.
Yeah, these are
revenue.
all gross.
That's gross, and
Okay.
that's conservative. We have to see where the first year is and then make adjustments after that.
Mhm, okay.
Yeah. That's going to be your
Mostly
events.
barn.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. So my next question is on page 21 for medical contributions. We're seeing $1.5 million increase there. I don't know what head count was in 22, 23, or even 21, 22 versus where we're at today or proposed, but I know that's a number that relates to head count, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It should. I'm gonna let her pull up the line item and see what that is. That's a big swing.
But it's increased in general across all,
Well,
yeah.
we-
So this is going to relate more to the actual medical claims
Okay.
against our self-insured fund. It may not be tied specifically to an increase in head count. It's more into large dollar claims.
Okay. Because I didn't know.
And we've had more
Okay.
with maybe a few very
Outliers.
difficult.
Understood. Okay.
Is that medical insurance or?
So we have a self-insured fund in which we pay the medical claims for. We have stop-loss insurance as well that caps how much
Okay.
is charged.
And do the employees pay part of that and the city pays
Yes,
part?
they pay.
What's the
We-
percentage?
Oh, goodness.
They paying 30% or a third?
Let's see, we pay for the employee side, and I wish I had Yoko in here to explain
That's
the
okay.
total percentage. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
But the idea is the city shares, or the employee shares in the cost of the insurance. The city puts money aside to pay for the first X dollars of claims, and then there's a stop-loss policy that picks up after that.
Correct.
Right, and this increase of $1.5 million was due to
We
some
have some very large claims.
extraordinary larger claims and growth and such, okay.
Surprisingly, during COVID years, it was smaller.
Yeah. Which is opposite of how you would
It's
think it would be.
opposite of what you would think.
Okay. That is all I have for now. I would encourage everybody to go back and re-review this information, make any notes, discuss in your one-on-one meetings with staff, because we have a big meeting coming up next week, and we want to be able to make sure that we are presenting this information properly and confidently, and also be prepared to address any questions that may come up from the audience.
Absolutely. So we're moving quickly. September is almost here. That's the budget approval month. We've tried to put all the information out there. I don't know if they went over we noticed the printout that we had for you all maybe squished you all together in a way that was
More
less
flattering.
accurate of the reflection of who y'all are. So this new printout replaces that original cover
I
page
thought you were
two.
trying to squeeze more money out of us.
Yeah.
We did print it in color, so we did recognize there was some formatting opportunity there. So that's a new cover page for you all. So thank you for that one. The fees, it sounds like there's still some discussion on there that's to be had. So we'll pull a fee for the lamp or trash service out separately for a discussion to allow that to happen naturally and organically and continue that conversation. The rest of the new fees, unless there's any concerns. For the most part, we'll try and balance them on consent. And then Appendix A will roll in after that. Appendix A is the housing place for all fees in the budget. So otherwise, if you had a new fee, you'd have to go find the ordinance, figure out where it was, amend the ordinance. So established fees go in Appendix A, and then we update them in Appendix A. So you're gonna see a lot of budget mechanics in play over the next couple of weeks, but we'll create an opportunity again for the trash fee that we've talked about to allow that to happen. And this segues nicely into preparing for the town hall.
Okay. Before we get on to that, I just want to ask David if he has any questions or if he sent you anything. Just, I want to make sure that we're sensitive to him not being here.
I am checking. Questions, but they're not ready at this time. They're summary that better articulated, so they're his notes to himself on the
Okay.
questions to ask. I don't want to misask his questions, so I will ask that we bring these up at the next meeting and discuss those with you all. And
Okay.
during the one-on-ones, I'll share any questions that come up that would be benefit for the council with the answers as well. So that way you're not missing out on any questions and answers.
Okay, very good. Anybody else have any more questions regarding budget at this point? No?
There will still be opportunities because we're about to
Yeah.
cover even more.
Okay. So next on the agenda is item B2, discuss the budget town hall.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. My name is Jawaria Tareen, and I'm your Chief of Staff. And I'm bringing our discussion on the budget town hall. Some of you know that I have experience internationally and locally as well. And it's very interesting to me to do budget town hall this time because I'm looking at it and I see it most transparent and very involved. This is very interesting experience for me and very learning one too. So with that, we'll start with our interesting slides on budget. Town hall, our venue is Branch Connection, and we're going to be there on August 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. I do request all of you to please come at 5:30 because we are going to greet our residents coming in and also to test the equipment and just to go over the video that, thank you all of you for making time and come doing the video. With this, we do have a communication plan for our budget town hall. We have been working on our pre-event, taking a basic communication plan, what's before the plan, during the event, and post-event. For pre-event, you have probably seen one of the menus that all of you have on your table. It does give a brief overview. It's available on our website as well. We are sending out our weekly branch bulletin, and Jeff has done a great job putting all the information out on our social media and has done a very nice video as well. During the event, we will have an information booth out there. Staff is going to be there to answer questions. Tammy and Ben mainly to help you all and our residents. We are going to record the event. However, it's not going to be, there's no live streaming on this event. And the reason is our room, Branch Connection, is not equipped to do so. After the event, we will post our video that all of you have done. If there are any changes, any concern, we'll go back and review our video and post it on our website and our social media. We'll also put a small, nice, I'm going to rely on Jeff for that, a brief on our social media as well as in our YouTube channel. I love this one. That not only gave me an opportunity to learn the budget from a different side, but also it was a great teamwork. Great suggestion, Councilman Jackson. It was excellent. I just wanted to put it out there. It is on our website. I put the link up there.
So one thing before we get too far, Jawaria, on this one, the original request was a one-pager, and we kept looking at the budget and realizing that the one-pager means something different for everybody depending on which part of the budget you want to talk about. So we talked about the budget recipe. So we really focus this like you're going to a restaurant and you open the menu. You can talk to your residents and constituents about the elements of the budget they are most passionate about. Is it the revenue? Is it the highlights? Is it the tax bill? What piece of the conversation do you want to have? And where do you want to go with that? And so it's trying to be all-inclusive with it. We tried to do a one-pager, but there was so much information in this budget we'd have to leave out. So we kept with our theme, made it look like a menu, feel like a menu, and you can open it up and again, have a lot of conversations with different folks depending on the topics they would like to discuss. So
And I like the large print, Frank.
that was one of the tough parts as well, especially when you get these
Yeah.
pie charts because wow, they get tiny quick.
There's a lot there. in the larger print just makes it easier to read through. So I'm totally fine with this. I think it's a wonderful cheat sheet.
Wonderful. And credit goes to Joria. She calls it opportunity. In other words, I assigned her a lot of work and she got it done quickly, so.
I love such opportunities. This is our main discussion point because we're going to have, not only that we're playing a video at the town hall, we're going to have a presentation as well, and I do have those slides right after this one. And each one of you will have certain topic, and the topics, we allocated those topics based on your questions and each one of yours comfort level. We're open to shuffling those around as well as we go through these slides.
And Joria, again, I know you're moving quickly on this one. This is truly the council's budget, because in past years, staff has been a disproportionate amount of talking when it comes to the budget. This is the council's budget. And so the way we're setting this town hall up is we'll be in alliance, we won't be in our district order. So for example, Councilman Merritt's not here, so I can talk about him. I know he's listening, but he loves to talk about the fund accounting component of this, right? And so his slide obviously will have the fund accounting. We're going to give you all the notes. We will be there with you all for this, but the design is it's going to start with Mayor Lynn, and he's going to talk about those topics with slides, and we'll move through the presentation, and then it's going to rotate through the council members on these different topics. Some are more technical than others, but we try to keep everybody at the same level of topics. Some will have more slides than the others, but this encompasses the majority of the budget that's proposed in the different areas, and hopefully do questions at the end. So we do the presentation, questions at the end, but it truly allows you all to pass the microphone and talk about the council's proposed, or council's budget now, the proposed budget's in, and where it's going and what it's doing. And so that's where she's going to now move through, is those different elements of the town hall.
So from this point onwards, I'm going to go through the slide presentation, the deck we are going to use at that time on 29th. You all have a copy of our topics. So we'll start with Mayor Lynn, and these are the slides you're going to have. Again, like Ben said, Tammy will provide us bullet points. So each one of you will have talking points to go over the slides. And we are here to answer any questions. I mean, Tammy and Ben, they can help you explain each and every point as well.
Jawari, on that slide, now that I'm seeing it, we're probably going to need to redo those text boxes. They are way too small. Nobody's going to be able to see those numbers.
Pretty small. Yeah.
Okay.
That wasn't easy to do.
Yeah.
I have some ideas for
You
you.
think about your room and somebody sitting on the back row, they won't be able to read
That's
that.
true,
So
that's true. We'll get
even
an
if we need to
increase.
section it off, you could show this as a intro and then have 5 sub-slides where you're showing community college just itself, big, and that's, 4.9%. Next slide is Dallas County, boom. So you could see, but
We'll get it to work.
just
Get it bigger. Yeah.
as something to think about.
Everybody loves the dollar bill. I think this does a great
It's a great
job.
slide.
So the goal here is to show we're only 25% of the tax bill. And that's really our part of it. And so that'll carry on to other conversations as we go.
Okay. Following the same, our topics, list of topics, these 2 slides are for the mayor. Any comments, question on this one?
We will furnish you all with lots of notes, and we're available to answer any questions, and we can always change anything. This is you all's town hall. We just want to throw our idea at how we would approach it.
Then moving on to Councilman Barrett, you are going to have the timeline and as well as the strategic focus areas. These are our main planning process when it comes to budget. For Councilwoman Bennett Burton, you are going to have our value bags price comparison. Again, we do have notes for you. Are we going to keep this slide? That's a question I keep asking.
That's how we calculated the bags.
Okay.
We can take it out. If anybody has questions, we have the calculations to support it.
So, can I ask questions as we go?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go back one more. There you go. This is really important, so I want to make sure that people can actually see these numbers that are in the white box over there.
Well, the years?
So again-
Oh, I'm sorry, on the left.
These ones.
On the left,
Okay.
yes. So if
Okay.
I'm sitting in the back of the room here, and I can barely read it,
Okay.
put my LASIK to the test. So just think about that.
Yeah, we can certainly make those cosmetic changes when we put the final version together.
Yeah.
I'm hearing increased
To me,
font on
the
everything.
numbers,
Make it big.
the numbers are more important than the graph almost, in my mind.
No, completely agree. The graph is just, it shows you back how far it goes to 1983.
Yeah.
Obviously, 1982 had a better tax rate reduction, so that's why we stopped at 83.
Not a problem.
A little selective.
Select, absolutely. It's all
Okay.
about how you put the data out there.
Okay, go next.
Jory, can you go back one more on this one? So this one for Councilman
one?
Baird, yeah, this is important because it's going to show the open and transparent part of the budget process. It doesn't happen all at once. It isn't just like we had one meeting. We've been having meetings over various topics throughout the entire process, and it's showing where we went all the way back, and then to this day, what you can expect in the future.
If you can make that font a little bit larger on the explanations and still have it fit, that would be fine.
Mayor Lynn, when you say bigger, are you looking like the month bigger or the subtitles like draft bigger?
No.
How big do you want to see it? We'll
white-
make it happen.
The white text.
The white
underneath.
text.
The question is, how big is the screen?
a little larger.
It's pretty big, but this is a really crisp screen. That screen is not as crisp.
Yeah,
I know, but I'm just saying.
the branch connection screen is a little bit blurry.
I'd split that into five.
I believe we are going
I'd
to
split
get a
all
new
this stuff into
projector. We're
multiple
renting
slides.
one, right?
I'm sorry.
The new projector.
huge
That's going to
room.
have it clear.
Yeah, much.
Not crisp.
Much bigger screen.
Jawaria, they're recommending breaking all these segments that are important into individual slides. So instead of focusing on maybe 2 or 3 slides per council member, maybe
Okay.
it's 10, but much shorter conversation on each slide. That way we're not there
You
too
could
long.
do that. You could show this
You
as,
can do this with a
This is
long
the-
timeline where it's taking each chunk.
yeah, this is the start, but then the next page is just February. Here's what happened in February. Here's what happened, next page, July. Here's what happened in August. So for ease, and that way you can show it larger.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And it does show our main focus areas as well as our critical business outcomes. Or,
So again, Jawaria, I would break that one, put the focus areas on one slide, make them bigger, and then the critical business outcomes. So what our focus areas are, and then what the budget's accomplishing.
okay. Perfect.
Okay. That,
There is one.
in my mind, this was a really good slide. I know when Tammy first presented, I really thought this makes a lot of sense. You put things into thoughts that people can relate to, and they need to be bigger.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe start with resident, and just have resident and mobile phone, and then senior and mobile phone on the next slide.
Well, I would say that there's replication between those services on the two bags. So if there's-
It's not the services, it's the number. It's the 124 and the 77
It's the
versus
difference.
128.
Right, but you can create more room, and make it bigger if we get
Yeah.
rid of the redundancy.
Well, that's why I was just going to split it and have
Well,
resident on one. Next slide is seniors.
We did originally have it that way, but like you said, it's the same services.
Right,
So maybe we could do 2 tags on the same bag with one senior resident, and one with
Right.
the other resident.
You
yeah,
could put
And
2
make it
different
bigger.
tags on a bag.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd put something different in bag number 3 because we pay $30 for cell phone. And I think a fair amount of residents.
How many do you have?
We have 8 lines, but it's like 26, 27, 28, unlimited everything. I think a fair amount of citizenry is going to go, 128 for a cell phone?
What would be an appropriate bill that we would?
I don't know, I was trying to think like
Maybe an
cable
electric bill?
TV or,
190.
maybe something like that. I'm just throwing that out. when I saw that originally a month ago or whenever it was, I was like,
The calculation.
I mean, what do you pay for your cell phone?
We can.
We don't want to know.
I pay 190 for two lines, two phones, so I don't know.
So we were trying to
200s for
find
3.
something that everybody pays that was close to our a monthly city bill. And we did research, what is the average mobile phone bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I just know you can do Mint Mobile, for instance, and it's like $30 a month, unlimited everything. So.
It gets
check
difficult.
my
but
contract.
We're looking at utilities.
We don't
we're
use
looking
cable
at-
or streaming, so.
I'm not trying to make a big deal of it, I just thought I'd throw it out since.
Jamari, I think what we'll do in this case is let's throw a couple examples of we'll find some example bills that are common bills that folks pay, whether it's streaming, just pick a couple different services that are out there. But as you're having this slide, I think one of the comparisons that's really important to make is that the service expectations that we accept from some of these providers, if you call your cell phone provider now, you're on hold for a while. You call City Hall, we answer. We're available 24/7, 365. The same service level expectations aren't the same for these other utilities, these other services you pay for. Anybody wants a cell phone, go into the store, you're gonna be waiting for a while. You come into City Hall to pay your bill, you're in and out. So it's just different.
What is the average medical insurance premium?
Ooh, don't know.
I mean,
But yeah, we'll find
think
some,
about
we'll
that.
find some example
Yeah,
average
I'd
bills.
say
Anybody
some
else
other
have?
household services, just as a matter of comparison. Cable bill, internet.
And Medicare was 132.
Insurance, yeah.
So Jawar, I think one example was Medicare at 132. So there's a basket of goods we can put in there to show the value proposition that we're trying to describe with the budget.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Tammy, for putting this together. This is an important one. And it's your Councilwoman Tina.
This
Any-
is probably the most important slide for a conversation that you're going to get hit with, that we get hit with every year, is meaningful tax relief. So the big reference point here is back to that dollar bill. We are 25% of the tax bill. So we're 1/4 a move we make, the impact the residents are felt. But it's important this year, a lot has happened, and I'm going to put that on Tammy to explain a little bit of what this is trying to say.
So when you take into consideration all of the increases and exemptions from your Dallas College, your Parkland Hospital, the school district, and our rate reduction, you have for the seniors, with our average Farmers Branch home value at $380,000, you've got $1,188 savings, which is huge. And I've got a calculation that can give you different values. For a $500,000 home, for your seniors, it's about $1,370. For an $800,000 value house, your savings is about, for seniors, about $1,820. So we were going to just show the average Farmers Branch home value and the senior savings with all four of those. If you want them broken out like a circle by each one of these different entities that make up your dollar bill, I can do that, or we just stick with the middle where you have an
I think it's
$1,188
fine.
savings.
Did we want to show anything for non-seniors on this one? I know the seniors get the bulk of the discounts in the upcoming budget, but that 0.107
True.
decrease is huge. Because you add it to our 2 cents, there's 12 cents coming off, almost 13 cents off the total property tax bill, that's dramatic. That's as large as I've ever seen anything as far as a rate reduction. That's a big move. And so this, got to give the state credit where credit's due. They're the ones that made this happen. And that'll come with challenges in the future, but today it's a benefit for all of our residents.
So I think there needs to be some emphasis maybe in the title of this slide that it's about seniors.
Right, otherwise we do need to have the other separated
Well, I
in
think
there.
that's a next slide, because the one thing that I want to do is instead of just the average, I mean, we can show the average, but I think we need to go to an 800 to $1 million to $1.5 million. We're getting more and more of those homes
That's,
Farmers Branch, especially in
And
Brookhaven.
they're not
that's
necessarily.
going to come on another slide.
Yeah, that's one.
So
on the slide.
I had already
So-
asked,
You did ask, and I have those calculations. I just didn't know how you wanted that presented.
so what we've done in the past is information has been shown on the average home value, which is 327 thereabouts. Okay, and as I mentioned to you the other day, I don't think that that's necessarily realistic of, or it gives enough of a picture of the home market. Not this slide, but showing. It's almost, go back one. Let's see, okay. So,
It's something like this, and then
Yes.
500.
and I know Sherelle had done the same for me previously. I might be able, well, I don't have access to those emails, but,
And I've got the calculations, and
Okay.
I've got it in a chart format.
that shows for a wider spectrum of our residents,
Yeah.
what they would be looking at.
And I don't think we need so much detail, like exemptions and that kind of thing. I think we just need to use an average value and just show, the tax impact for this year with really,
But if I show,
Go back,
are we keeping this slide?
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And are we relabeling it senior?
I just think we need to put more emphasis, this is about seniors.
This
I know it's in the
specific
middle of the
one.
page, but on the top, property tax relief for seniors,
Seniors.
I think would
Perfect, okay,
set people's mindset that this is all
Hey,
about
put
seniors.
it in red, something.
okay.
I think-
Seniors getting largest reduction this year, red.
If I may, Tammy, I think for using different house values, I agree with the council members. Using different numbers, it's just an idea. I think we can sit together and work, like taking maybe the average value, 500, 800, and doing the calculations under.
Right,
We can
and
discuss
then
more on
are
that.
we showing senior and just regular homestead for each of those values?
Yeah.
And Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, we're presuming that the vote will pass at the state level,
Correct. That
passing
is-
these changes.
That is an asterisk of November 5th election passing of the school district exemption.
It's the assumption that most of the time these do pass, but that does assume that the tax relief that's proposed from the state does pass.
Okay. That's the slide. Ben spoke about that. He's not here, but Councilman Merritt loves it, and he's going to have it, and he's going to explain.
There's going to be lots of notes, but I'm explaining the fund accounting, and we've all had that discussion a couple of times, but he's definitely focused on the relationship in the funds, which is critical because that explains the budget book you have and all the different tabs. Why is it tabbed the way it is? Well, that's different funds and how those funds interact with each other, the transfers and those other elements.
Increasing the font on this one,
So-
maybe.
What you might do on some of those, so let's just look at central government or general government over there on the left, where it says the budget, just bold that.
Okay.
Bold those lines with the numbers because they're hard to read.
Do we need to split
Sitting
it
here.
out, or is this font readable?
Well, here's
No,
what,
just make it
Bigger.
bold.
here's what I'd suggest. With PowerPoint, you should copy this slide the number of times you have boxes in here. And the next slide, it takes general government and makes it big.
Here to the
And then
next
goes
one.
to the next slide and takes public works and makes it big. If he's gonna talk through each of these,
Okay.
Well, you can do that.
it'll be animated.
This is bigger because it's a larger font, but in order to see that, especially if you're sitting back, just, it
Right,
can
right.
be that font, just make it bold. Make it so it stands out.
I still think just because of, it's pretty small even back here
Yeah.
for them to see it. We have this one as the over general discussion of the theme and how it all fits together. And then we'll have additional slides that talk about each fund bucket.
Bring it
And then
out.
we can always go backwards and say, well, hold on, yeah, this or that. But that, even if we make it bold, that 30 million is hard to see.
Yeah, it's gonna
Right.
be hard to see.
And the different colors are great for visuals, but the orange isn't necessarily doing any favors for it.
Well, same with the others.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
And we have fund transfers, and Tammy will have notes for us on each one of these topics.
This is also Councilman Merritt still as well.
Yes.
So not only do you have the fund accounting, but now how the funds are starting to interact with each other. That way we can explain it to the residents.
And moving on to Councilman Roman, you have the philosophy and fund balance.
Ooh, that balance sheet's gonna be tiny.
It
Yeah, that's
is.
gonna be,
It is.
we maybe don't need the visual in this case,
Okay.
unless this is your slide, sir, so if you'd like a.
If you can just send me my slides and I will modify them to my satisfaction. Thank you.
No, we need to maintain consistency here.
Okay.
What about the before we go, Jawaria,
Oh.
Councilman Roman, did you have any questions on any of the content for this one about unassigned fund balance, the bond rating, how all these pieces are fitting, or are you comfortable with that one?
Nope, I'm
Okay.
good.
So are you going to take off the graphic on the right?
I can take the graphic off on the right. Just press delete.
We will take it off and also send it to you for
Okay.
consideration.
Okay.
So we'll remove the graphic, because that's too hard to see.
Okay.
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 There again on the left, needs to be larger.
Okay.
We could also put that in the notes,
Okay.
because
And now I'm moving on to, this is actually Councilman Roman. Do you want the table on the right?
I don't know, just send me the slides and I'll look at it and see what might be best.
Yeah, that's got to show better.
Yeah.
So again, another big topic in the budget mechanics for this year is the advanced funding, such as making sure we're communicating that to the residents and why we're doing that and how it works.
When everybody walks in the room, I'm going to hand them a playing card and say, okay, cover your left eye. See if you can read this. If you can't read it, just trust us.
I think we still have some of the binoculars from the John F. Burke.
Oh my
Reserve
gosh,
Park.
yes,
Bring your opera glasses.
yes, issue those.
Well, I'm hoping we have such a packed house that you need those. That would be great. So please help us spread the word.
Okay. So now we're moving on to Councilman Jackson. You have the pie charts.
It's already
Two
blurry.
slides.
They
Yeah,
are
it's
blurry.
already
We'll
blurry.
fix them.
So 2 slides, and really, we may have to put text boxes over those different ones to make them exponentially larger.
Yeah,
So you see the relationship, where the money comes from, where the money goes.
that's better, but the font still needs to be bigger on the spike
Well, we
out.
Maybe shrink the chart a little bit and make the font bigger.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, we'll have lots of notes in here for you to consider when describing these elements.
Okay.
And there's the $186 million budget, 187 if we round.
Okay.
So,
I'd like to add some more lines to that slide.
this is one of the most important slides you're going to have. So the details aren't there. What you're going to have happen is you're going to have residents come up to you and say, this city has a better tax rate. This city has a different senior exemption. They have this or that. What we're trying to show is we don't know what the other cities are doing. I sent y'all information on the quad cities with anticipated discussion, but some of them haven't even affirmed a tax rate yet. So they've got a lot of work in front of them as they're juggling all these pieces. We took a different approach where we had a lot of these discussions proactively. But what we're trying to show you is that Farmers Branch is truly one of the best values in the area, regardless of any of the other variables. Because what'll happen is they'll say, hey, pick one, they have a lower tax rate, but they don't have a homestead exemption. And that's, I think McKinney does that. They have a better tax rate, but you go and pull it. And we didn't shy away from name brand cities. We didn't just stay in Dallas County. We went and found all the cities. Like people brag about McKinney, Frisco, Plano. We're putting our tax rate out there saying, all in, this is a great place to live for the value.
So to that point, why don't we print on maybe a poster-sized piece of paper, 5 copies or something like that, so we can all have that at our disposal. And if residents want to visit with us individually, we can sort of pull this chart out and show them.
Okay.
So they're not going to be able to see that and distinguish it, that's fine. But we will have that wherever we're standing afterwards, if need be.
I see this slide as more of a table, or I'm sorry, a bar chart, and not 30 cities, but maybe 10. 10 that are most comparable.
I wouldn't.
And
No, because if you go to a DCAD website, you're going to get this information.
The problem with that is you have so many variables on who has the homestead exemption, who
get it.
has the senior exemption, so your bar chart.
understood,
It's
but
gonna
the
be
message is
awful.
value. The value is relative. And if we said, here's the value of Farmers Branch compared to the value of all these other cities, we don't need to know the homestead exemption and the tax rates, all of that is baked into the value. And,
Richard, I'll respectfully disagree because we don't know what services all these other cities offer. And so there's something right there. We're trying to establish value 10 slides ago in the grocery sacks thing, where we talked about compared to the phone bill, okay? These are all the services that you receive, and here's what it costs on average. So this is just, I think, a point of reference. I don't even know if it necessarily needs to be included in this thing because people aren't going to be able to read it. If you can't read it, let's maybe not include it, or you just,
We can make the resource available as a reference, because this is more for my council members, because you're going to get hit with these questions saying, well, let's say, for example, Plano up there, well, they have this or they have that. Well, what is it really for us? And the one thing that makes this hard to be an apples to apples comparison is part of the driver of different tax rates is the home property values. University Park's home values are $5 million. They have a lower tax rate than us. That's just a different set of scenarios. Grapevine has a heavy sales tax and hotel motel component to their budget. So what we can do is make this readily available. We can put it somewhere to where the public can readily assess it, be open and transparent. We also still don't know what they're doing with their budgets, but I would argue even with our current budget that hasn't been adopted yet, you look at this in all the other cities that aren't adopted, they would have to make moves that you really can't make in a budget to catch us. There's a couple that are better than us, but we're not far off. And if you get rid of the outliers, best value is still where we end up.
so maybe, again, just having this as a poster or something on a couple of easels in the back where people can look at it or whatever. This isn't the driver in my mind.
Correct. It's preventing the distractors that come out to say, this city does this and we don't do it. And so it's trying to say, well, hold on, let's put it in the proper context.
Right.
And so we can make a poster of it. So we can just focus on the words, which are on the left side, make those bigger. And I think we can say something in the notes about how many cities where we tend to sit. We're always in the top 5 in every category. We do really well. And then we can always link out to it through different mechanisms on the poster. So if folks want it, we'll put it on the website. We'll be out there.
Okay.
But this is just preparing you all because this inevitably will happen. They're going to come up and they're going to pick something. And it's always a valid point. It's just when you're just looking at one element of the total tax bill, though, it misses the other nuances, which is our senior exemption and our homestead exemption. It misses those pieces. And so it's making sure we have those. And we still can't forget, even if there's a trash fee adopted, I don't know of many other cities that don't charge for it. So there's cascading benefits to being here. And then you start talking about the other service levels that this budget's funding, the police department, the fire department, and the service level expectations. So it's never going to be apples to apples, but it says, hey, for the value of service level you get, this is a great budget. And that's what we're trying to equip you all to have those conversations. Because it's easy to go, well, wait, what does go on in McKinney? Why is it that? Or why is it these other cities? And it's not to say one's better or worse than the other. Each city is different. Each city is run differently. But we're saying for what the expectations of Farmers Branch are, this is a strong budget. Here's all the good points to this budget.
Okay. Coming in on the hotline from Councilman Merritt.
Uh-oh, he was listening.
He says he's good with the suggestion to show the main funds slide and subsequent individual groups to facilitate the text detail within the boxes, okay? And then he suggests staying with all the cities on the existing expected taxes table print on poster board as a chart to be viewed that night. So he agrees.
So it sounds like the idea is we're gonna need some large posters there for various different elements. I believe we already planning on having some larger print items there. So we'll add to these as well that reinforce the different topics.
Yeah, just some big posters around the room that people could go to before or after the meeting and.
That's the plan, where we have the information booth, because we do have some light refreshments right by the kitchen in Branch Connection, but on the other side, that's where the space we're going to use to put our posters and the pamphlets that we have.
Okay, great.
There are at least 2 additional topics. I didn't put them in the slides. We're going to leave it up to your discussion and see if you want to consider them, putting them in, and who wants to take them.
It's a busy slide.
Yep.
What's the axis across the bottom? Is that those monthly? Those months?
Those are the months, yeah.
By month, okay, I see that, by month. So we start at,
2018
September.
September. Yeah, it's
out to
2008,
2023.
2009.
of June.
Oh, no, it's a busy slide. There's no doubt. It's just, do we want it or not? And if so, we'll clean it up.
I think it's, unless you go to like just the last 5 years, it's too busy.
it is the last 5
That's the last
years.
5 years.
Or
Well, the
But by
point
month, not by
was
month.
to see the kind of.
not by
the-
month, not by month.
The actual inverted U and U.
Well, we could always, if this is something the council would like to see, we can make the labels larger on the bottom. What we could do is just remove those and put in the year markers, so you can kind of, you wouldn't know exactly which month it is, but you could get it, kind of a general idea. But again, it's trying to show sales and use tax, kind of that trend we're on. But also part of it is you don't know when the U is going to form. So where are we at and where are we going? We're starting to see sales tax reports where we're matching last year, maybe going down a little. So
Can, trying to look at the years, and this is rough.
this is optional.
Oh,
And it
If you
isn't
don't
my
want-
graphic, so I
Can we-
apologize.
I'm with the mayor on this one. Can we do the 5 years, but just yearly instead of monthly? Is it, as I look, it still shows, because I'm trying to see where they group together. And I think you're going to see the U. I think you're still going to see the U shape that they're going
well, I think
for.
you'll see a curve.
Yeah.
It won't be as spread out as that, but you'll see a little bit of a curve.
Yeah.
But
And
that's
Councilman
really,
Merritt has volunteered to take this slide, should that be the
so
direction of the group, and we can clean it up. So we know there's opportunities to clean it up, and we will clean it up. Councilman Merritt has volunteered to take it.
Yeah.
As we go into town hall, are you all comfortable with that? We'll clean it up and make it easier to read and follow.
sure.
Okay.
I
Thank you,
think-
David.
And I think in presenting this, what I see is the story of, the COVID interrupter to our economy and how it's bounced back, plateaued, last year, and now it's starting to fall again.
Well, if you take it over more than the 5-year time span, you do see this constant U and inverted U.
Oh, you do? So even the prior
Yes.
10, 15, 20 years, it's up and out, up and out, up and down.
But as we saw, the inflationary pressures as it would be, things get more expensive, sales tax follows the prices as well.
Gradual.
So there's a
It hasn't
gradual
gone
slope
this
line.
high
Right.
up above that red line before.
So there's a gradual one, but we're seeing, when you look at this, you see dramatic changes. And so it shows that there's a trend line in there. But we'll get this cleaned up and we'll get it in the presentation at the appropriate spot with Councilman Merritt's.
Might I please add something? Because I have spent my life studying presentations, and I think this might be helpful. If you can just think of who the average person is in this audience. What's their age? What are their needs coming into this meeting? And most importantly, what does the mayor and the council want them to leave with? What's the singular 3 or maybe 5 messages that you really hope they'll take home and remember the next day. If you can focus on that, and it's really, this is very hard to do, to get people in an audience at that age level and perhaps further away than Mike is. They're going to be sitting, it's a huge room, think about that. And think about what you're trying to convey with the slide. So anything that's, the smaller the number, the more minute the information, maybe that is better for a big poster board or a handout. And the messages, what you put up on the slide, can be simplified quite a bit if you just focus on what do we want them to have as a takeaway? What do we want them to remember? So fewer numbers, fewer words, and then have the data. The data is crucial, have it, but it's a handout or maybe a big poster board. I think that would be helpful to think about that.
Thank you for those points, Jeff. I would also suggest that wherever possible, we don't use acronyms or initials. RSF, what is that? Revenue Stabilization Fund. We need to spell that out. Yes, it's going to take more time and space, but again, our audience doesn't know the language that staff speaks. So we need to make sure that we're very clear in that. So wherever we have those sort of things, even above that 26 million projection for fiscal year, most people know what that is, but I don't want to take it for granted.
Agreed. Okay, thank you for that. And grant funds.
So the message on this slide is your tax dollars, there are things that's not coming from your tax dollars.
Yep.
These are grants, and here's what's open currently. I guess, what's projected versus previous? Where's Hoya's current? I don't look at Hoya as really a projected.
It's reflected in next year's budget, so you're seeing the matching component of it, so it has budgetary impacts as well. So I would look at projected. Tammy, please correct me if I'm wrong on these one.
Right.
These are interacting with the budget, so that's why they're listed. So that's why you're seeing that projected on there, because these also show as revenues, and sometimes there's expenditures because we're matching on it. So it does a lot of things. It shows the budget's got a lot of movement. There's a lot of money moving with grants. Also, it's great to show we don't just use local taxpayer dollars. We're doing everything we can to go and get grants to leverage for the future of the city as well.
The first box, newly projected, maybe it's newly projected and still active grants. Next line, estimated at 14 million. Make it bigger, and
So just take out the previous
it'll,
box.
it'll just have to drop down to a second line.
Yeah, do we really need the previous box there? What's the significance of that?
What are you talking about?
ARPA, safer, E-rate internet.
I would say that it's good to show that this is a patterned history with the city and not something new. If anything, I would get rid of the grant process on the right because that's just a placeholder clip art. But at the same time, I want to make sure we're showing that this isn't something new either. We've always worked for grants, and we hope to actually grow the list exponentially with our new grant coordinator
Well, we have a grant coordinator.
that's stayed with us. So we're excited to do that as well. One thing that, and I'm looking for the group here for feedback on this one is, this is exciting to me as a city manager. This is exciting to Tammy as my finance director. This is a lot of budget discussion. And so I just want to, if y'all have any ideas for how to have a captive audience talking about this is going to be a challenge. And so that's part of, as we're talking through this, this is a lot of information. It's very important. It's $186 million plus dollars. But at the same time, we've all been in classes or, death by PowerPoint is a thing. And so as we're thinking about this, Jeff, looking for some of your guidance as well. I've got 6 different presenters going here, plus some staff backing up, is how do we keep this engaging with the audience? Because this is a lot of information. And so credit to Councilman Roman for saying this is a lot. where do we go with this as a group of presenters to keep this engaging and active for the group? And so that's one of the challenges with the town hall as well.
So what I don't know, not having seen like the full presentation, just as a run through, how long is this going to take? If this takes us an hour to get through this, it's way too long. If this takes us 20 minutes, it's probably bordering too long. So shorter is better for everybody, and opening up for questions. And I don't know whether we do questions after each section as we go along or hold to the end.
So you're thinking this entire presentation should take about 20 minutes at most?
I haven't seen all these slides as a full presentation in front of me, so I don't know.
I'm looking at it as impossible. This many slides with this much information, unless we're running through it, which we have to be cognizant of how quickly we're moving through this data, I think it'd be impossible to present all of this in just 20 minutes.
And if I had my experts doing this, it's probably 20 plus minutes, just because the amount of information, there's so much going on in here, and it's all important. It really is. It's all very important to us as an organization. That's going to be a challenge for it, because I don't know if we can get done in, maybe if I was on some caffeine and already going pretty fast, but even then, for it to be meaningful, it's you're probably looking at least at 30, because each of these topics is probably several minutes.
Okay, well, even if our goal is 30, I just don't want people to get bored hearing us talk. They need to ask questions, and that's what we're there for. We're there to answer questions, and or staff is there to help support answering questions.
Absolutely. And we could pass out question cards and collect them as we go. So we're like not signing up for public speaking, but that way as they have questions, since there is a lot to cover, they can fill them out and staff will collect them, and we can get them, start working on getting them to the right folks for answers and helping prep with the answers as well. So there's solutions we can make to keep people engaged as they're going, but just other thoughts as well, because this does put a lot of pressure on you all as my presenters to, you know, it's one thing to coach one person to make it through this presentation. It's a whole nother to say, okay, there's 6 of you, each with very technical topics that may not relate to your day-to-day activities. And so just putting that out there as well, because that will be a challenge to get through it. We can make sure we're collecting questions, which I feel is a smart thing to do, but other elements as we go.
So do we want to include the sales tax and the grant slides? These were additional slides.
Yeah, I'm thinking we need to take a bunch out. I wish I'd have known earlier in the presentation that our time cap was, because I'm thinking this is a good hour. This is a good hour of presentation.
I think we should start with a goal in mind. And I think, Jeff, you said it exactly right. What are the 4 or 5 things that we want the residents to leave with? We're 5 council members and the mayor, so we could say, what are during each person's presentation, what is one thing that we want to ensure that our residents know? And start with that. I did the budget presentation last year. I did a town hall, and it took a long time, and people had a lot of questions, and some people were upset with certain parts of the budget, so expect that there might be people who are going to be very opinionated. But it lasted a long time. If I had to do that again, I would have had much less slides, but there were certain areas that I wanted to get feedback from people on. So that's why I did the slides the way that I did, followed by a survey that people could participate in there and then to get them engaged. But as I look through my slides, if we're going to go down this path, I will be consolidating my slides and making them very simple. That's what I would do for my slides. That's why I was like, I'm not going to tell you, take that out, move this, let me just do that on my own. But I really think that we need to, I think this presentation would be ideal for a council, not for the public.
So Ben, correct me, we do have a video as well that all of you have done, and it kind of contains the same information that we're going to play after Mayor gives his welcome note to the residents coming in. Do we need a presentation? Or, because we do have the boards and posters there.
If I'm looking at this one, it's a challenge because it's all important information. But what I believe we could do is lean out the topics and make it to where what staff will sometimes do when they're presenting to you all, they have a 5-slide maximum in most cases, right? But sometimes the presentation has 20 slides after they finish for any topics of interest. So we can always have additional context slides after the presentations to review with any questions we have. So instead of assuming everyone wants to know everything about the budget, we can focus on the top 6, again, lean it down even more, and then have post slides that have more details, more information for council to pull up should those questions come up. That's a strategy we use with my staff to make sure we're not over inundating you all with stuff. But if you ask a question, we go, oh, we happen to have a slide for that, and you'll see them jump through it. Or you've seen it in the packet. You're like, what are all these other slides after questions? Those are bonus slides in case we need them, but we didn't want to just, and planning used to do this. It used to be 50 slides or more, right? And then you'd have another presentation followed by whoever the developer or business is with another 50 slides.
Yeah.
We would be here for an hour and a half on one topic. And we've still managed to get through all these technical presentations on 5 slides. You have a robust staff report, but you could say there's a staff report sitting that's got the meat and potatoes of the budget. This is the meat and potatoes. The pie charts are there. There's a lot in here. And so we could potentially eliminate some of the slides with the content that's in here and say, hey, first thing, let's talk through this. It's your handout. It's kind of your quick reference guide. That's going to talk a little bit about this. We have the video. And then we could talk on a high level, each of the council members.
How long is the video with everybody's?
Couple minutes, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be 6 to 10 minutes.
6 to 10?
Yeah.
I like the idea, and I know there's been a lot of work put into this already, so I want to be sensitive to that. But if we're going to be giving this to residents, then it might make sense for each of us to take a page of this and spend time explaining this so that they have that explanation in their head when they take this home with them.
Okay. Instead of working.
Yeah.
And then we
because-
can have a couple of big printouts, for example, the comparative rates, the things y'all said, hey, we'd like to see that printed out so we can discuss it.
Yeah, we could do that, or the other alternative is, each one of us removes a bullet from,
Challenges, they're all,
and I know they're all important, but if we're trying to manage time here and leave time and space for questions, we've got to cut this thing in half.
well, and in all fairness, Jeff brought up a great point too. When you're talking to the residents about what they're looking for, when you come to ask a question involving the budget, what we're really asking is, how does this impact me as an individual in my situation? How does this benefit me? How does this not benefit me? How does the budget impact me? And so they may not care as much about fund accounting or transfers or revenue stabilization. Those are mechanics within the budget that lead to a final tax rate that says, hey, we're going to deliver service at the highest possible
Right.
level. We're going to do it while reducing the tax rate by the most it's been done in 40 years. Here's the highlights of the budget. And that may be an easier way to approach it. And we still have all these slides available and we can pull them up depending on what the topic of choice is or if we need additional information. But if that works for you all as well, and that's why we wanted to have this meeting, is we want to make it your town hall. This is one way we could do it with slides. We could also really focus on the handout.
Right, understood, just shorten it.
'Cause
It's got to be shorter.
Yeah, I hate to,
And
I don't want to throw away all the work that she's done, but I think.
Well, it wasn't too much work, honestly. Tammy had these slides already ready. I just
Most
put
of
the
this was
initial
budget
view.
101, yeah.
Yeah.
But
We've already done this.
shorter is better. And I just don't want to watch people's eyes glaze over and roll back in their head and watch them pass out as we're up there just drolling on and on.
I think maybe one thing that we could do is we have the video played, then maybe we make very quick points during each presentation, and then we move on to maybe having a little bit of a workshop style, sort of how Stantec did it, where we can have different stations where people can come and ask us questions about whatever we presented, and then that'll give people the freedom to dig in as deep as they want or as little as they want. If they learned everything they wanted to learn during the presentation, then they're free to go. But if they wanted to say, hey, I want to learn more about fund transfers, then they'll go to Councilmember Merritt's section where he can have his slides or a part of the slide printed in some kind of poster board and visit with him. I think that'll help with the interaction with council members, but also maybe split it up to where people can choose what they want to know more about. I don't know, I'm just
I like
throwing
that.
ideas out there.
We kind of each man a poster board.
Yeah.
I mean,
We've done that before, too.
done that before. at the
Especially with some old
historical
town
park.
halls. That was one of the best ones for
Yeah.
that as well. There's different topics of interest. So
Right.
that way, sort of like we talked about the one-page cheat sheet, it has a similar theme. Different people are going to want to see different components and have different questions, and that would allow us to have those conversations. So if we're going to say we think Farmers Branch is one of the best values, that's one station that talks about the comparison and have you all there. So we can work to break it apart. So we're all together at one point, play the video, explain this, and then have it where there's different stations. We'll have different budget topics to put you all with, and then we'll
Yeah.
also put some staff members with you there to support you as well
Yeah.
about what's changing.
I think that'll make it less informal, and I think it'll allow us to really interact with residents about a topic that might be of interest to them.
So that brings up so we were planning to record this. Once we decentralize it, the recording basically loses all value, just to make sure we're comfortable. It's not actionable.
Must be present to win.
Okay, so that means we'll cancel the recording element of it because it's going to decentralize. This model's been very successful in the past, and we want to make it for you all. We'll create different feedback loops as well. Stantec did a great job with different feedback loops they put in place on some of their engagement activities. And that's why it's important to have these meetings. 'Cause what we don't want to do is have a budget town hall and it'd be like, oh man, that's an hour of PowerPoint, and there's all these numbers everywhere. I didn't take notes or something happened, and you kind of lose your questions.
So from a recording perspective, there'll be people that can't be there that really want some type of interaction with the budget process. So I'm thinking that we use the videos that we already made and attach that to the presentation and kind of make it all one. If we're going to record something, the Branch Connection, I can tell you right now, the quality's not going to be good.
Correct.
The sound's going to be terrible, the lighting's going to be terrible. So maybe instead we create, the presentation on the tail end of the videos that we've already done and let that be a recording that's available to the public.
We could have much of what was put together
Right.
run behind that
The intro
video
video.
presentation. If people are interested and they go online, they'll spend longer amounts of time there. I'm not interested in that. I'm just, the captive audience in person is what I'm really more concerned with.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But wait a minute.
Jory, do you see any concerns with reformatting and shuffling to that alignment?
It's much easier.
Okay.
I like
Jamie, you feel good with that one as well?
Oh, yeah.
Excellent.
Councilman Merritt, handouts and electronic equivalents will spread the message and emphasize takeaways.
We
Bingo.
can also put this information out there, because I believe it's still good information, but it's
Yeah.
very technical, so we can put it
Sure.
out on the website. So if, hey, you want to see it, here's just different budget topics all aggregated together. We can post that as well and send it to the council, so you all have a copy of it, and please share. That's a good thing. And we're starting to get some questions today. I think some council members are copied on some of the ones I've been getting. I can tell you all what's been really exciting about this budget. It's getting a really favorable reception so far overall. I know there's always going to be little adjustments to consider, but the feedback I'm getting from the public for the budget y'all are working on has been generally very positive, and I'd love to hear that. So thank you.
Will we get some kind of link to, or maybe a YouTube link or something where we can share the video that will be playing there? That way, I guess if people aren't able to make it, maybe as a consolation, they can at least see a summary that
Absolutely.
we can then post and
It'll
share.
be, it's now about 10 and a half minutes long.
Sure.
Now, it's a draft, so it's subject to being edited, of course, it's not final, but we will have that draft tomorrow to
So
look
we'll
at.
get the link to you in the council tomorrow.
Okay.
So you have it. And I would hope everybody, now I'd encourage the residents to watch it ahead of time too, because it's got lots of nuggets of good information. Sounds like we're on a great path. So are y'all in a good alignment for the topics? And we'll get you assigned to a table. We'll try and preserve alignment as much as we can with what's in here.
Okay.
And send you all talking points as well.
Okay.
So I'm excited about this. I would ask each of you to send notes to your constituents, inviting them to come. Let's pack that place so we can make sure people are informed.
Plan on doing cookies, tea, lemonade, just to have folks some snacks to walk around with. Nothing too formal. I believe we have cookies tonight as well, if you'd like a couple cookies to go. I'm trying to keep sugar in you, because sometimes, again, sitting here can, just like any presentation, can take some energy.
Not helping my diet. Okay.
Amazing cookies.
Does anybody else have anything else regarding the town hall?
Just check the Freon levels at the Branch Connection the day before.
It works.
Make sure that we're,
We have brand-new AC units.
works.
That will be added this coming week.
Finance taking over Fleet and Facilities has worked out magic.
excellent, excellent.
Gloria, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Oh, wow.
Seeing nothing else, I'm going to adjourn at 5:56.
Yes, she does.